Tackle today, Matt and Mark Justice from Tackle Trading, bringing you all the charts, the analysis, the news in just a few minutes so you can be informed on your trading decisions. Matt, when you eat a big meal, you need some time to digest. It feels like that's what the market is doing the last couple trading sessions, right? We've had a big move. Market's taking a little pause ahead of a heavier catalyst stretch coming up in the coming days.
Yeah, I definitely got that call right there on the technical side of the equation, Mark. Haven't really seen a lot of price movement, quite frankly. We've seen a little bit of intraday, but even on the intraday side of the equation, hasn't exactly been a volatile last 4 or 5 trading sessions. A lot of dojis here from the open to the close for the last 5 trading sessions. Just open, do what you do throughout the day, close about right where you open, and you see a little bit of the wicks on the low side, which do tell you that the market's playing a little bit of defense here. When you do break it down from an intraday perspective, you can kind of see that consolidation. You see it as a high base type situation where you have overhead right around the 572 level, support obviously in the 565 to 566 level. You look at that on a 30-minute chart, you can kind of see that get dialed in. You bring it down to a lower time frame, you can kind of see that get dialed in. Just a not, especially over the course of the last couple of days, just not a lot of volatility we are seeing in the market. But that might be because of digesting a little bit of that upward movement in price, that breakout that we had last week following the central bank. And obviously, I think the market's searching for that next catalyst to get the volatility moving again.
Yeah, I know. And the NASDAQ has stood out to me in the intraday price action the last couple sessions. We had some relatively weak economic data yesterday that we talked about here. NASDAQ has shown intraday strength relative to other areas of the market ever since then. You have Micron's earnings after the bell today. Pretty nice technical pattern, some intraday strength. Boy, it sure does set up if Micron delivers for NASDAQ to break out of its short-term resistance range, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's in general it's following the same general trend of the one in the S&P 500 right now, but I would agree with you on the intraday side of the equation. You are seeing a little bit of relative outperformance, and today you're seeing that a little bit as well with the Nasdaq kind of breaking out of that 465 485 level, that intraday resistance zone. You see that breakout on the cash open. When you look at the kind of the RSP chart on that same cash open, you did not see that type of movement here. You actually saw a downward movement in price. And I do think that's reflecting a little bit of what we are seeing in communications and technology and the aggressive areas of the market, a little bit of the cyclical side. And I do think you're seeing a little bit of fading action in those defensive areas of the market, something we talked about pretty much at Tackle Trading for the better part of the week, is kind of that base case of seeing improving conditions on cyclical and aggressive, a little bit of fading action on the defensive side of the equation. But we really have what we have not seen, other than some slight intraday outperformance on the Nasdaq. We haven't seen that massive breakout where you do have a catalyst, where you do clearly see the momentum shifting in the favor of the Nasdaq. So I would definitely say it's leading right now, but it's leading from an intraday perspective. We we
Yes.
we need to see something a little bit more, and maybe that's something a little bit more is economic report coming up tomorrow. Maybe it's one of those economic reports. Maybe it's Micron later on tonight. But we are seeing intraday a little bit of relative outperformance, but that's more of a day trader type situation. You definitely want to see a confirmation breakout here.
Yeah, we're certainly on the look at that. We'll be reporting Micron earnings tomorrow as the biggest earnings report of the week. Not a lot of economic news today, Matt. We just had new home sales, one of those kind of nothing burger reports. Small beat against expectations. Economic data has erred on the miss side. So those on soft landing, you always like to see a nice beat. But this was another economic report that was generally within the range. Not a lot to discuss there. What stocks in the news do you have for us today?
I think you're seeing the news of today kind of built into the price action of today. We're not seeing a lot of price action because we're just not getting a lot of important news right now, both from a stock perspective or an economic perspective. Obviously, as we've been doji for the last 4 days in the marketplace. But the stocks we do have in the news, we have a couple earnings reports, and then we have a downgrade to discuss a little bit. First and foremost, KB Homes. was in the news here today as they came in with an inline on EPS. They also slightly raised guidance, but it's one of those guidance upgrades, Mark, where it's very small and on the range. And so you basically have guidance increase in the range. You technically can say it's an increase in guidance, but at the end of the day, it's kind of trickeration that these companies play a little bit. CTAS, CTAS, they also came out with a beat against expectation, a 10-cent beat against that expectation. They also raised forward-looking guidance as well. General Motors and Ford were in the news because they got a downgrade out of Morgan Stanley's Adam Jones due to rising competition from China and weakening U.S. consumer. I truthfully would like to ask Adam Jones just one simple question. Was he waiting on Chinese stimulus to do that downgrade in the U.S. automobile sector? Because I don't think he would have done that simply because of competition out of China if it wasn't for the stimulus coming out of China as well.
Right, and Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas is a huge Tesla Super Bowl, like just like massive, been one of the like highest price target kind of analysts out there. I doubt it.
And he may see this as kind of like we talked about the other day, Mark. He may see it as an EV move. I believe he downgraded Rivian as well on that. So it's an interesting downgrade coming out of Adam Jonas, no doubt about that. When you do look at this from a technical perspective, Ford obviously struggling at the low price. Here, GM was obviously a little bit better than Ford from a trending perspective all year long, but you are seeing some double top price action on GM right there at $50, and you now are coming back down into that support level. That looks a lot of neutrality with a little bit of concern on the overall technical side. Ford, you obviously have concern on Ford. It's underperformed a lot of the industrial space. Obviously, it's underperformed GM, and it just has had a very difficult time since its last earnings report to get anything moving in the right direction. When you do look at the earnings reports from today, KB Homes kind of at that top level of the chart when you're looking at KB Homes. And it came out with the beat and a slight, and I mean very slight increase in guidance, but you're at the top end of a chart. You got to inspire a little bit to get that growth moving. So a little bit of concern on the KB Homes earnings side of the equation and overall slowing momentum in trend. And then on CTAS, like I said, they had an increase in guidance. They beat on the EPS, the revenue side of the equation, and they're threatening yet another breakout.
Yeah, quiet day in commodities as digest prices from some pretty strong movement that occurred yesterday. I love kind of boring commodity days following strong moves because they set up potential next potential moves, right? So kind of a boring day. Fire through some charts for us.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a boring day in the commodity space, but I'll take a couple boring days in the commodity space.
They set up the next play.
Gold's kind of range up here, no doubt about that. You look at it from a traditional RSI perspective, you're all the way up here around 81. From the pivot breakout perspective, you've ran from 2,500 up to 26, right around 2,700. I wouldn't call that a pivot high base where it caught the 9. And so it's had a really good run. You're overextended, and you certainly would expect a little bit of secondary development there. On the industrial cyclical side of the commodity space, you got silver and copper. Both of them have seen vastly improving conversations. Silver's right back up at that overhead resistance zone, and you certainly would love to see a little bit of a consolidation before a breakout. Copper kind of doing the same number that silver's doing over the last week or so. A little bit of upward movement in price breaking out from last week. Now you're coming into an overhead zone at 4.5 that you would like to see a little bit of development as well. And so we're quickly in silver, in copper and gold. We're quickly, and especially from yesterday's pricing, you got overextended fairly quickly. And so, yeah, you would like to see a little bit of consolidation. A little bit of consolidation goes a long way in setting up that next trade.
It certainly does. Listen, we're going to continue our conversations, talk about trade setups, discuss trading methodology, all kinds of amazing stuff. I love our Traders Lounge. We're going to get on that come join us in the Traders Lounge. Come join us for our Traders Reports, our live programming. Matt did a fantastic coaching show that you can take a look at from last night. Go to tackletrading.com, sign up for that 15-day free trial.